gonna sing for you. You come looking for the light, and it won't.
Mayor Reeves. Vice Mayor Short. Councilmember Dyke. Councilmember Ollinger. Councilmember Ramikis.
Here.
Councilmember Russell. Councilmember Schmidt.
Here.
Councilmember Sternberg. Councilmember Yao.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add to the agenda the Black History Month proclamation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll put that on 6.1. 6.1. All right, pledge allegiance, Mr. Ollinger.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consent agenda, Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir. On the consent agenda this evening is replacement of Unit 843, a 55-foot bucket truck, acceptance of VA 250 and Virginia tourism grants, uncollectible personal property tax account write-offs, 2020 tax year, paid bills listing, and minutes of previous meetings.
So
Motion-
moved.
All in favor? Opposed? All right. 6.1, proclamation, Mr. Clancy.
Whereas Dr. Carter G. Woodson launched Negro History Week in February 1926 and set it aside as a time to study, teach, and celebrate the significant contributions that Black people had made to American society, and whereas Negro History Week later expanded into a month-long celebration and became known as Black History Month and was officially recognized in 1976 by President Gerald Ford, who urged all Americans to honor the historic contributions that Black people had made to America during the nation's bicentennial. And whereas Black people have contributed to Culpeper's history since the founding in 1749, both as free and enslaved persons that provided labor, skilled trade services, and entrepreneurial business. And whereas 2026 marks 100 years of Black history commemorations, 50 years of Negro History Week, and 50 years of Black History Month, and is thereby officially noted in the 2026 Black History Month theme, A Century of Black History Commemorations. And whereas the recognition of the contributions and achievements of Culpeper's Black citizens is essential to council and the community. Now, therefore, I, Frank Reeves Jr., the first Black mayor of the town of Culpeper, and on behalf of the Culpeper Town Council, hereby proclaim February 2026 as Black History Month in the town of Culpeper, and urge our citizens to recognize and observe the month by hosting and are participating in activities and by taking up the shared work of protecting, promoting, and preserving Black history as a significant part of Culpeper's story.
Thank you. All right. Public forum. Members of the public may address council on matters related to town government at this time. Please state your name and address for the record. Each speaker shall have 3 minutes and shall comply with the citizen participation policy. Groups are requested to have a spokesperson. Questions should be directed to the mayor. Is there anyone who would like to speak this evening? No one? All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing at this time. All right, 9.1, ordinance for housing rehab zone. Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, apologies for not having a chance to discuss this with you in committee. The weather this last month, I guess, prohibited that, so we're having a chance to discuss it now. Before you this evening is a request for the declaration of a housing rehabilitation zone. This is related to low-income housing tax credits, and so I wanted to just give a brief overview to council and to the public about these low-income housing tax credits. Essentially, these tax credits subsidize the acquisition, construction, and rehabilitation of affordable housing for low and moderate income tenants. These are done through the form of the federal government issuing tax credits to states and territorial governments. The state then awards the credits to private developers who are developing affordable housing projects through a competitive process. The developers then generally sell those credits to private investors to obtain their funding. And once the housing is actually in place, the investors can claim those tax credits for over a 10-year period. The annual credit claimed is equal to a percentage multiplied by the project's qualified basis. So essentially, depending on the proportion of affordable units within it, plays a role in impacting how many credits, or the amount of credits that a particular project can have. In recent years, the town has supported 2 projects for their applications for low-income tax credits. The Lightfoot apartment development that we actually have an official opening of coming up next month, which is 60 units off of Lightfoot, as well as the Parkside Apartments development complex overlooking Yow Meadow Park, which has 37 units. And so we've received a request for support in another application. And this is from the Culpeper companies, and they are requesting aid in qualifying for revitalization area points under the Virginia Housing's Qualified Allocation Plan. There's several different options, but the most appropriate and the simplest option here in the town of Culpeper is through an ordinance establishing a housing rehabilitation zone. There's limited options really for the town. This is by far and away the simplest and least impactful way to do it. So the Culpeper companies have requested the town's support to qualify for these points for a proposed 42-unit development, 42-unit apartment development that they're proposing at the site of the former Baby Jim snack bar. So this is, again, it's at a very preliminary stage, but this is the conceptual plan that they have for the development. As you can see, it fronts on Main Street as well as William Street there with the parking shielded. This will need to go through the normal development review process. It will be subject to all of the regulations of the town's Unified Development Ordinance that was adopted, but they did want to provide something to give a conceptual layout, so at least there was some concept for council to be able to look at and review. Again, there will be changes to this to make sure that it complies with all aspects of town code. So, want to just make clear in terms of what a housing rehabilitation zone does. It does allow the applicant to gain additional scoring points in their application for low-income tax credits. It does not modify in any way the town's development standards. So all standards that would apply to any other housing development, any other building construction of any sort would have to meet the same requirements as this particular proposal. This property is currently zoned Neighborhood Commercial Mix NX. As you can see, the NX is our most permissive zoning designation. It allows for a wide variety of both residential and non-residential land uses. So it does allow for by right apartment development use. The previous zoning of it prior to the adoption of the UDO was a mix of C3 and R3, commercial 3 and residential 3. Those both would have also allowed for the development of apartment units on this site by right. So I want to just also point out the timing that we have here because there have been some questions related to that. This request came in on January 14th. It was scheduled to be discussed at the 3P committee in January, which unfortunately was canceled. We're here this evening with it coming before council with a recommendation for adoption, waiving the second reading. This was initially proposed because of that prior support for applications for low-income tax credits and in anticipation of giving the developer the greatest time possible to prepare their application. I say that because their applications are due March 12th, which is 2 days following the March council meeting. It certainly is within the purview of town council if you wish to hold the second reading and refer this back to committee for further discussion to do so. We do have time to do that. It just makes it a little bit of a tighter turnaround time for the applicant in terms of their actual application. So at this time, the report and recommendation is for the declaration of the revitalization zone, but I'm happy to take any questions that council may have related to this matter. There is also a representative from Culpeper companies here who'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have as well.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Just so I'm understanding, thank you for that explanation, and just so that I'm understanding correctly, the way it is zoned now, by right apartments could be built there as is. The only thing that we are being asked to do is create the zone so that allows the builder to get credits for supplying low-income housing units.
That is correct. The town is offering no other incentives, no other modifications to our process, to our ordinance, to our code, other than the declaration of this zone, which, as you stated, does allow them to increase their scoring in a competitive scoring process.
Okay, so apartments could go there with or without what we do tonight, but if we do this tonight, then it would support low-income units.
Correct. And the design standards of the adopted Unified Development Ordinance will apply in both instances, whether it develop by right, whether it develop, in both cases by right, but whether it develop as a low-income tax credit project or whether it developed as a market rate residential project, those standards would apply.
Mr. Hopewell, I have a question. If I may. First off, thank you for pulling all of this together, especially with the last committee meeting being glaciered out. When it comes to the actual design that was sent to us, I was wondering if it is malleable to add parking spaces, because it didn't really seem like it was up to code, certainly. But if we're having visiting family, friends, door dashers, it doesn't really seem like 80 parking spaces for 42 units would be quite enough, especially if it's you're counting 2 cars per unit.
Yeah, the UDO has a requirement of 1.5 spaces per apartment unit. So again, what you have in front of you is not necessarily the final product. This is simply a conceptual sketch at this time. They will have to meet the town standard. I will also note that the General Assembly currently is evaluating legislation that potentially may even reduce or remove localities' ability to require parking altogether. So that's something that we have it on the books right now, but it is a fluid subject at the moment, depending on what General Assembly action takes place. But whatever the standard is, they will have to meet the standard that we have for the parking provision.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Joe?
Yeah, Mr. Hopewell. So zoning NX, so that's also mixed use, right? Commercial and residential, and it's a type of commercial that's like low-density traffic, doctor's office or something like that, as opposed to a retail shop. As opposed to MX, right? That's the difference.
The neighborhood commercial mixed is really, it's the broadest zoning category that we have within the town. It allows for a wide variety. It would allow retail activities as, in addition to sort of consumer services, offices, nail salons, beauty, those sorts of uses as well. So again, it's a very varied zoning designation and very permissive zoning designation. It allows for a variety of residential types as well, the apartments. It allows for townhouses. It allows for duplexes. It does not allow for single-family detached, but it's very, very permissive in terms of what could go there. From the commercial side, where it differs from the more intense commercial, our C district, is that it's not generally intended for vehicle-centric commercial uses. So your gas stations, your vehicle sales, those sorts of uses would not be permitted there.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Jane?
If for whatever, if we do pass this tonight, and for whatever reason, it goes through the process, and for whatever reason it does not come to fruition, does the zone that we do tonight, is that attached to the project, or is it now the location?
It would be the location. It is parcel specific. The town could certainly rescind that ordinance, rescind that declaration if the project were not to be successful, if they so chose.
Finished?
Mr.
John?
Mayor, I move the R&R.
Second.
Mr. Mayor,
Any discussion?
Yes.
yeah,
have more
I've had a
discussion.
number of people call me concerned about this. I'd like to see us send it to the committee on the 24th for further review. So some of the folks that have called me can come in and ask questions. They're somewhat confused about the whole thing, even though it's a very noble project.
And I've had the same thing as well. So I think it would be good if we sent it back to committee. I mean, we haven't had a chance to really digest this, and, this is right on Main Street.
Since you have a motion tonight, I'll make a motion that we postpone it
Yeah.
until the February 24th meeting.
Next,
Mayor, can I make a comment before we
ahead.
go into an amendment?
go ahead.
I mean, I don't interrupt. But in regards, having to go back to a committee or stand on this schedule, looking back at what we had done for Parkside and Lightfoot, the language is pretty much identical except for the particulars of where it is and who's doing the development and all that. And the fact that at that time they were resolutions versus an ordinance creating a zone. But the Lightfoot Apartments, that was the first time we did it, February 2022. The process was pretty much the same. Went to a public hearing the first time. The second one, only a month later at Parkside, March of 2022, was on a consent agenda. Same process. Went to committee once, one reading, and then off we went. Nothing's really different here. I really don't see any reason to go back to committee because we're not doing anything different and it's not any more complicated. And it's my 2 cents.
Well, I withdraw my motion.
And was my question too, is I was trying to understand what was different about this one too, from the other two that made this one seem more challenging.
Withdraw.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's the location. It looks like it's gonna be pretty congested right there. Even though whoever comes in later on has a right to do it, I think it's gonna create some problems.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, Mr. Allen, I agree, and I think that's the concern that I've heard is that as much as we agree we need affordable housing options here in the town, the county, across the Commonwealth and the country, really, that particular location right on Main Street may not be best suited for something like that. And I understand high-density apartment developer can come in and buy right build. But I'd really love to be able to support something that is more commercial focused in that particular location. We've got wonderful Davis Street right now that people come from all over the place to visit. And I'd really love to see a Culpeper 25 years from now that has that same sense of a wonderment in a Main Street area, not just along Main Street, but along Commerce Street as well. And I guess my concern is that if we do, once we establish high-density, apartment there, whether it's by right or whether it's through this affordable housing option, that kind of dampens that area for that commercial development. And I think that's the sense I'm getting from a lot of people who have reached out to share their thoughts and just that area that the traffic is already an issue. We definitely need some more time to work this out, and my suggestion would be that we stay with the suggestion to move it to committee for further discussion. It's very unlike the others that we've done. This is a revitalization area. This is an ordinance that we're establishing to help this effort, not just the simple resolution on the part of council. And I think we schedule for a committee and we invite the public that comes in that wants to share their concerns. We have conversations about it and we move from there. That would be my suggestion,
All
Mr. Mayor.
right, finish. Joe? John?
Yeah. So our downtown businesses really need to have more foot traffic. And we only get more foot traffic by putting people down there. Not having another commercial or not having something nice to have. But we've got to have people actually living in that downtown to keep it alive. This is one of those steps towards that. It's the reason I'll be supporting it tonight. Our people need places to live. And just kind of dragging it out, I only had one person reach out to me that had issues. So if you guys had more, that's good, to have that kind of people, not many people reaching out to you, but I don't think it's worth the delay. I think we need to show how serious we are about having more places for people to live. And so I'll be supporting this tonight.
Jamie?
I actually agree with John on this one, and I hear what you're saying too, Joe. On the flip side of that, we wouldn't even be here tonight if it wasn't a special zoning or the, whatever it's called, the tax credit zone, right? If it was someone who wanted to build just a standard apartment complex, they could do it by right and wouldn't even come in front of us, right? So I do hear what you're saying. This is an opportunity in my perspective, to provide some more housing to sustain individuals who are living in our community, who need places to live. And if we put it off and then we lose that, we could still end up with an apartment complex that no one can afford who lives here. So, I mean, we would not be here tonight if it was any other apartment complex. So we don't really have the, the authority or the ability to say what we want to be down there. We can say we don't want this if we don't support this, but that doesn't mean that that's not gonna happen through another means, right? So now that we have the opportunity, I think it makes sense to support low-income housing so people can live here and, like John said, bring them into the downtown.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just kind of add to that a little bit, at least this way, with the rehabilitation zone, at least we have some control of what goes there, as opposed to, well, not having any control if there isn't a zone.
All right, anyone else? All right, we got a motion and a second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Yao, did you withdraw
He
your
withdrew.
amended motion? Okay.
To have it reiterated what the motion is. Are we,
We're
what
going
is the
with
motion?
We're going with the original motion. Mhm. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Dyke?
Aye.
Councilmember Olinger?
Aye.
Mayor Reeves?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramikis? Aye. Councilmember Russell?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmidt?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Short?
No.
Councilmember Sternberg?
Aye.
And Councilmember Yao?
No.
The motion carries.
All right. 9.2, Town and County Interaction Committee. The next meeting is scheduled for April the 24th, 2026. I'm going to open it up this time for discussion from the committee. Anyone have anything they'd like to add?
Could we, Mr. Mayor, could we have a review of what's currently on that agenda?
There's nothing on it.
There's
at the
nothing on the
moment.
agenda. Well, why are we meeting?
That's the date they set.
No one? All right, let's move to Town Manager Monthly Report. Any questions or comments? Everybody okay? Communication and correspondence. The Town Council FY '27 Budget Presentation Special Meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March the 5th, 2026 at 5 o'clock at the Economic Development Center. Any questions on that? Anyone have anything else for this committee tonight? If not, we are adjourned.